welcome everyone to our session in which we will look at working with children under 3. We are delighted to have Anna Maria Gill with us, but I need to say hello, Melise, and hello, Wendy. I presume you are joining us from Sarajevo, and we hope you are all well and the school is well. Having made this personal little welcome, I welcome everybody else. We are delighted to have Anna Maria because she comes to us as a deeply committed practitioner for working with very young children. And she now has got her own consultancy, and she will share with us some of the key principles of what is important for this age group and for people who work with this age group. And she will also reflect on some of the recent experiences she has had consulting and working with the community. After Anna Maria's session, we will have questions and answers. And if you are thinking of or are curious about some of the comments, please put them in chat and we can develop them a little bit later after Anna Maria's presentation. So over to you, Anna Maria. And again, thank you, Wendelin, for making this technically possible.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me here tonight. I'm absolutely honored to be your guest tonight. And hi, Wendy, I hope you are having a nice time too. It's so exciting to see you on Facebook popping up from Sarajevo. It's amazing. So welcome everybody. I'm going to share my screen. So tonight I would like to talk about the real needs of the under 3s. This is because I have noticed when I've been going around England and the UK that sometimes the main principles are forgotten or put to the background. This is mainly I'm thinking about the Montessori principles mainly, and I thought it would be quite nice just to have a little reminder of what really is needed to be delivered in the under 3s classroom or a baby room or a toddler room. There's so many names for it. So we are going to talk about the triangle: time, the environment, of course, movements and activities, the child, the teacher, and then we can have a look at some of my observations, some snippets of them. We'll see how we are getting on with time. So you all probably know this magic or dynamic triangle: the child, the environment, and the teacher. This is something that is definitely in our basic knowledge, hopefully. And this is something that I find that people seem to know, but not necessarily actively implement. And this little quote, "the whole man develops within a kind of spiritual halo." I like this quote together with this triangle, because to me, the triangle is the halo, the spiritual preparation of the teacher, the spiritual environment, and the spiritual embryo. And all together, these are connected through a spiritual link, a bond that is invisible, but highly important, especially in the baby and toddler rooms. Of course, I'm not saying that the physical things are not important, don't get me wrong, but for babies, it's very important for the teacher to be there and for the teacher to have the right attitudes that the babies need. This kind of halo or this triangle creates the atmosphere that the babies need, and that's really what they also need from us. However, of course, we can have the child, we can have the teachers in the environment, and we can have this beautifully prepared environment. However, if we don't have and don't allow, oops, why did this go all the way there? Sorry, it's just gone all the way to the end. Never mind, I'll go again. So if we don't allow time, sorry for that hiccup, if we don't allow time to be present in our classrooms, none of that halo and none of that triangle is going to happen, and none of our core Montessori principles can be delivered without allowing time to be present. So let's just think about that a little bit. We always say following the child is one of our basic principles, isn't it? So if we don't allow time for the child to show us who they are and, you know, get them to know themselves, then we can't follow the children. It's absolutely impossible to follow children when they are rushed about, you know, quickly put this on, da, da, da. Now we are going outside, now we are doing this, no, no, no. It's not going to happen. Time is the essence. And I always think of time now as one of our pedagogical tools, because without it, we can't educate at all. We can't allow the children to have freedom of movement. Without freedom of movement, how are they going to be able to stand up? How are they going to be able to put their shoes on one day? So I keep going on about time whenever I visit any nurseries, because that is the one of the elements that they seem to lack. Giving time to children also shows that we are actually respecting them. We are offering them an opportunity to find themselves. You know, Montessori always says that children develop their personality from birth. This also needs time. So I really always advocate for time. Take everything away, every extra stuff that's going on in the nursery, and just be purely with the babies and get back to the basics of human interaction, you know, gazing, especially for babies and toddlers, value the very simple human interactions and activities, because children, especially these little children, always need the adults to be there for them. So I think it's very important, and I always start all my presentations with having time in our mind, and try to always have time also in our classrooms. So let's then move on to the environment. And that's good, it didn't go to the very end this time. So of course, there's many things in an environment. Montessori-ness is very much all about the prepared environment. We have the freedoms, we have the atmosphere that we create. Again, remember that spiritual side of the environment. It should be really home to home, especially for the younger children. Outdoor, I mean, indoor and outdoor, but I'm going to highlight the outdoor bit of this, because I have noticed that babies are not being taken outside very much at some nurseries. Somehow it's maybe not valued. I'm not saying everywhere, as at some nurseries, it's maybe not valued what they can get out of, from what they can learn from being outside. But when little children are outside, they actually come alive, their senses come alive, they experience the outdoors with their whole body and with their life. And Montessori also says that children actually absorb their environment with their life. And I think when they are outside, this is very obvious. The environment should be also enabling and affording for, you know, the unique children's skills, developments and abilities. And of course, then we have the sensitive periods. And again, when sometimes I ask, oh, what do you think, which sensitive period would be the most important? Obviously, people say movement, and I'm thinking, yes, it's movement. They have to move a lot, but also language. Children have to, you know, listen to clear, simple, joyful language, And because it is the beginning, everything begins in the baby room. As I said, the movement, language, concentration, the development of personality, self-esteem, all start in the baby room. Okay, so let's just then move on, because I don't want to run out of time, and then we can always expand on some of these if you have any questions. So then we have in the environment, of course, again, we have movement and we have activities. And I love this quote that everything in the living world is active. Life is activity as its peak, and it is only through activity that the perfectionments of life can be sought and gained. Movement is the start of everything, I believe. And therefore, some nurseries, I go in and they are absolutely beautiful. The shelves are beautifully stacked with amazing stuff, and there's so much energy and time and effort goes into it, but then there's hardly any room to move. So the question is then, what do we want the children to learn? They are not going to be able to carry out the cycle of activity. They can't go to the shelf. They can't take things to the mini tables and sit their bottoms on the mini chairs. But they need to be able to move their bodies freely and safely. And sometimes I think that happens, but it is almost, it's controlled. So it's like, okay, now it's movement time, or now it's activity time, or now it's whatever time. But in the baby room, movement is the basis of everything. So without that, there is not going to be activity later on, or there's not going to be cycle of activity later on. So making room, actually physically making room for free movement is sometimes what we need to do. Push things away. They don't need tables if they are very little. They just need safe places, maybe a mirror. I know this might seem like common sense, but sometimes it is missing. Also, with the activities, I think it's also very important to think about the hand, the child's hand. They need to be able to access things. Yes, they can't carry out the cycle of activity, but there are many things they can do on the floor. There's many things they can grab, and later on, when they can sit up, they can be introduced to the treasure baskets, and even a little bit later, they can have heuristic play sessions. And with those things, I'm not going to now start talking about treasure baskets and heuristic play in for a long time. But with those two play forms, it's very important to have them as sessions. And that's another thing I noticed, that there is this sad basket sitting on the floor somewhere or in a corner, and it is like, it's like the notice board in a staff room. Nobody looks at it because it always looks the same, and so it's not interesting for the children. It's not a gift. And Elinor Goldschmidt wanted the basket to be a gift to the children, and that is why we give it to the children. And then we, when they had enough of it, then we'll put it away. It's got to be a session. If it's always out, it's not going to be interesting. Anyway, also practically, it's not a good idea to have them out, because they are going to be emptied, hopefully, and then maybe put back, but maybe not. So it has to be supported by the adult, because also we are the anchors for the babies and young toddlers who play with the treasure baskets, and they need us being there. So it's not enough just to put the treasure basket on the floor somewhere in a baby room. And the same with the heuristic play. Again, even more so from the safety point of view. Obviously, if you've got some wooden mallets or something in the treasure basket, that can become a weapon for an older child. So everything needs to be policed and made safe. With the activities, again, as I said, for babies and toddlers, more so for babies, all the activities they do are linked to an adult or the adults in the room, whether that's singing or crawling around or making tunnels to crawl under for the babies. Anything that happens in the baby room is very closely linked to adults. In the 3 to 6 classroom and the 3 to 4 classroom, they are much more independent. But when they are in the baby room, the role of the adult is so much more enhanced and so much more involved with the child than in the bigger classroom, because I feel that in the bigger classroom, the adult's involvement is in the environment and is in the presentations. The children are more independent by then, but we are laying foundations here together with the children. Of course, the senses need to be engaged. I feel that sometimes there's not enough activities for the children. Again, being outside would be a good idea for this. But you know, there's going to be ideas on my website how to put some extra ideas out for the children if they are non-mobile yet, because that is the age. The non-mobile and cruising children seem to be the ones who are missing out on some of the activities. With activities of everyday living as well, I think very young children can already be involved in a lot of things we do during the day. And I always say that, I don't know, you probably don't know, but I used to be a Montessori childminder. And I always say that I was the best Montessorian when I was a childminder. And that is because I could involve the children in many things that we did during the day in the house. And it was so natural. And I could never imagine before this that an 18-month-old child can, I don't know, chop up bananas or water my plants in the garden or anything. Yes, it took forever. Again, time is the essence. But nevertheless, it was purposeful. It was something that they enjoyed doing, and it was something that was building their character. So I do believe that we don't need to wait with the AEL until they can get to the shelf, because there are other things to do. There's self-care. I have numerous pictures of me looking like a scarecrow because children, the little ones, used to love combing my hair, of course, the wrong way around, but never mind, they were only little. But there's a lot of value in the learning that happens when they are combing their hair or combing someone else's hair, putting on wellies, wiping tables, things like that, that are simple, but really, really satisfying for little children. And then later on, obviously, when they are older and they are steady on their feet and we've got shelves and some very simple activities, that's when they can maybe start doing more AEL work on the shelves, but also outside, putting water from one bucket to another and things like that. That's already transferring, and it's really, really good for them. Just one more thing with movement and activities. I sometimes ask, why do you think we should do this? Why do you think we should go for a walk with the children? And then often the answer is how to post some letter or to, I don't know, to do something. There's no result. They are not result-led. Children are not result-led. They are needing to walk for the sake of walking. And I just say this very quickly. There was one child when I was childminding, and he said to me one day, "Oh, let's go for a walk, Anna Maria, you know." And I said, "Yeah, okay, where do you want to go?" And he said, "Nowhere. I just want to go." And he was just putting his wellies on already, and he just arrived, and we were going again. But, you know, it's just showed that, you know, they don't need a destination. They don't need a finish line. They just want to walk. They just want to enjoy that for the sake of the movement and the development that brings. Of course, sticking to the prime areas of the EYFS and the characteristics of effective learning, it's really, really important in the baby room, more so than trying to count, and I don't know, all sorts of things happen sometimes. So yeah, try to stick to the prime areas most importantly. So let's see, next slide. Okay, so that's another thing. What happens, what means to me to follow the child is to serve their spirit. And I think if we find people who serve the children's spirit in the baby room, then we have one. And the children are going to be very, very happy in our baby rooms. So there are I just put this there, this little diagram, the journeys, to show the journeys the children go through, from physical to spiritual embryos, from unconscious to conscious and dependent, through dependence to collaborative, and then to independence. Now, dependent and collaborative is where we normally get the children into our baby and toddler rooms. And I think that is a very important thing to be aware of, because sometimes we think, oh, yeah, here is this baby, whatever, but we don't actually think of where this baby is in their development. And that kind of dependent and collaborative stage is really important for laying the foundations for later learning and independence. Because if they don't trust their people, their environment, and their own abilities and skills during this collaborative stage, they are not going to be able to develop their own skills later on. So I think it's just a nice thing to keep these little journeys in mind. And Montessori also says this: an unconscious mind can be the most intelligent mind. And I think that's also important to understand, that the babies are very intelligent. Just because they can't talk, or they definitely can communicate, just because they can't talk, they are not, they are still very, very intelligent. And we can see that when they are playing with the treasure baskets. It's absolutely immense intelligence, the way they choose, the way they have preferences, the way actually they have social intelligence and emotional intelligence. They hand things to each other. It's just an absolutely amazing experience to observe a treasure basket session with babies. And of course, then the emotional nourishment comes from the adults, comes from the teacher, or from the parents at home, of course, naturally. With the children, I have seen a couple of nurseries now where they mix the children. So I'm not talking about necessarily vertical grouping, but they take a few babies into the older classroom, or the older children come into the babies' room, and it's absolutely amazing. It doesn't happen spontaneously. It happens. It is slightly organized, obviously, for staff and ratios and everything has to be in place. But it's absolutely beautiful the way both age groups actually open up and marvel each other. And it is, there's learning value for both. And the older children absolutely love taking care of the little ones. So when they come into the little room, they immediately become mums and dads, and they want to play and they want to do everything else with the babies. So I thought, when I saw that first, I thought this is a fantastic idea. It also gives the teachers a little bit of breathing space. They come out of their own classrooms, go into somewhere else, and also help them to understand the journeys. Where do these babies come from? What are the expectations? How are they behaving in their own classroom? And also they see their older children behaving completely differently with the babies. So it's just one of those little ideas that you might want to try out if you have different age groups if you have bigger nurseries. Then let's move on to the teacher. And I promise I won't talk too long now. So this little scale here I've put that there because while I was reading, I was thinking, yes, this is obviously the unconscious absorbent mind we are talking about. And to have that equilibrium, to have the balance that we need for harmony and the rhythms to be nice in a baby room, we need to counteract the child's unconsciousness with the teacher's consciousness. And I thought that the more unconscious this child is, the more unconscious the child is, the more conscious the teacher needs to be. And I don't know if you agree with me in this, but I think the teacher, who is with every fiber of her body, is trying to serve the child's powers and energies, is going to be able to then find this balance with the children. So that's what that little scale is there. The other thing I think is to have faith and belief that the child is going to show themselves through work, through communication, through play at some point. So that to see this baby becoming, instead of just being there on a Monday morning, the baby is much more than what he is on that Monday morning, if that makes sense. We need to be able to see the whole journey, where they come from and who they become. And I sometimes think that, sometimes going to a nursery and then do like an observation for a day and then training the following day. And then, I say, oh, do you know this? Do you know this? And everybody knows so much because people are trained, Montessorians are trained, and they know a lot of principles and they know everything. But this knowledge is not shown in their actions. And I'm thinking, okay, you know that it's good for the child to be outside. So why are we not outside with the babies a little bit more? So I think that needs to be that conscious effort, that action to be made for all the principles to come alive in our baby rooms. Because most of the time I see all of it in the older classroom, but not in the baby classroom. So I encourage and empower everybody to bring all the principles into the baby room actively, because knowing is not enough. It's absolutely not enough to know, because babies are not mind readers. They don't know what we have read, what we have learned. We need to show it to them, and they need to be absorbed all that with their bodies, with their mind. Okay, now you might want to shoot me for this. I don't know if you do, but I will say it anyway. Does it matter whether we have highly trained Montessori teachers in a baby room or not? I have visited a few non-Montessori nurseries now, and I must say that if they wouldn't have told me that they are non-Montessori, I wouldn't have known, because they are genuinely, intuitively, and honestly follow the children, and they serve their spirits. And they are not Montessori trained at all. It's just something that is, having an instinct, being able to come down to the child's level, understanding the child. So it's really, really important to have those soft skills and being genuinely interested, and may I say joyful. They need to be joyful. People need to be happy around babies, because they actually absorb. This is part of that atmosphere that they absorb. So I will never forget, I went into a nursery and they were all kind of happy and singing, and everybody was, joyful. I can't say it with any other. It was a joy to be there. Whether they could, I don't know, count to, 10 or do the pink tower when they were 2, I don't know. But for the babies, it was an absolutely beautiful, beautiful spiritual environment, because the adults were joyful And they worked very hard. They were exhausted. I'm not saying that they were only part-time and working 3 hours a day or what. They were exhausted, but they somehow understood that they need to be not taking themselves too seriously. You know, they were very experienced, knowledgeable people, but not necessarily Montessori trained. So another important thing, I think, with the teacher, and this is the last one, is to be able to reflect, to have that personal transformation. Montessori was quite adamant about the fact that we need to have that kind of transformation, that kind of personal transformation, and have the spiritual preparation before we start working with the children. I find that this is quite hard with younger teachers, quite understandably. So some managers are putting up body systems or organizing body systems or mentorship or one-to-one kind of personal and professional support to teach reflection and see how it can help the practice. So yes, so let's move on to another thing that's quite important. It's spontaneity and flexibility. And again, I think that comes with experience and confidence in practice, because a novice teacher is not going to be able to come away from the norms, from things that they have learned from books or from a course. So I think that's very important to support each other within a team, so that they become confident teachers, and they know that they have someone to turn to, somewhere to go to ask questions. It's very, very important. Also, sorry, just one more thing. One of the things that people miss at the moment is to meet. You know, we used to have regional meetings and coffee mornings and things like that. Now that doesn't happen anymore. So the teachers only have their managers and their leaders to turn to. And I think that's why it's even more important to have that really, really robust, knowledgeable and approachable management and leadership in every single nursery, because teachers don't see other teachers from outside. And unfortunately, building a community of nurseries or teachers or teacher bodies or teams is in very baby, no pun intended, but it's very baby steps at the moment. I often say, you know, if I go to a nursery, invite another nurseries team and let's do it together. And then, you know, we can exchange that experiences and we can see how they are doing things. And no, not yet, not always possible. So, you know, it's very important that if we are not going outside to get experiences, then we need to do it in-house. So that's another thing the managers and the leaders need to do. Now, I'm not a manager or a leader. I'm just telling you what I have seen and what I have had chats about in various nurseries. So here are some points of some of the observations. Some of it I possibly have talked about, leadership and support, Montessorian or not. I really believe that if we find people who genuinely want to be with children, they pick up Montessoriness very easily and very naturally. Look, I'm from Hungary. I'm from a communist country. I grew up there until I was like this size. Nobody knew about Montessori, but my mom and my friends and everybody around us were doing things that now would fit into the Montessori school. I used to sweep my mom's front yard at her greengrocers every day after kindergarten. That was my purpose. I couldn't wait to get my hands on the sweeping brushes. It just, you know, it's the freedoms, it's the time, is the purposeful activity. And were they Montessorians, these parents? No, they weren't. My mom definitely wasn't. But going back, looking back and talking with my old kindergarten teachers who passed away not long ago, unfortunately, they said, look, this is all things that we used to do with you guys. And it was just a beautiful revelation to find out, yes, of course, if you are stripping back and if you go back to the basics, then you are going to be able to deliver the Montessori principles. So I know that recruitment is really, really hard at the moment. I know that. But maybe that's why. Maybe if we are looking for people who are non-Montessorians and they come and they're happy to be and happy to work and joyful, then maybe they will pick up the Montessoriness, and you can guys have in-house training now, or, you know, sort the training out in many different ways. Burnout is a biggie at the moment, unfortunately. And again, this is getting back to the leadership and the support. Some nurseries are now having more frequent breaks. They spend time in other classrooms, or they go for walks. Possibly, unfortunately, because of COVID, part-time work has gone out of the window. So in many nurseries now, the teachers are working really, really long hours. And I can tell you, and you all probably know, that working in a baby room is really exhausting, because the children absorb every energy, every ounce of energy that you have in the morning, and you have none of it by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, possibly. And this is again because of your involvement, because of the adults' involvement in the baby room, physical and emotional and spiritual involvement in the baby room. So they really need, the teachers really need genuine support and you know, appreciation, whether that is financial, whether that is, I know one nursery down south, they, you know, they put nice hand creams in the staff room, and I don't know, they bake cakes, and, you know, these are just little things, but honestly, little things make big differences. Getting to know other classrooms and other teachers is quite a nice thing for the teachers to do as well, especially if they sometimes say, we are stuck in the baby room. I have heard this so many times, we are stuck in the baby room. Okay, so if they think they are stuck in the baby room, allow them to come out, visit the other areas of the setting, maybe send some of the other teachers in, if with children, as we have talked about before. Flexibility, freedoms, ownership, and spontaneity, these are all coming with experience. And again, I think it's very difficult for the younger ones or people who just start out in their teaching career. But they can be encouraged. And I'm sure as good leaders you are encouraging people to come up with new ideas, to try new things, and send them to CPD. That's another thing that's very much on the agenda of some of the teachers. They need more training, and you know, they need a little bit more of inspiration sometimes. And I know that some managers send me a list of things saying, Anna Maria, when you come, could you please say these things? Because if we say it, it sounds like nagging. And it is true. When someone else comes in and, you know, sees things with a fresh pair of eyes and maybe says something that's, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe it's a good idea. Now I'm going to try it because someone else has said it, not my boss, you know. These things are still there, and they are valuable, because at the end of the day, if there's a progress and there's a positive change in the baby room or in a setting, then why not? So I wonder if there's any questions, because that's the end of of my presentation. If anybody would like to have this presentation, you are very welcome. I can send it as a PDF to Wendelin, and then she can send it out to you all. I really don't mind. It's not going to look like a presentation. It comes as a PDF. So, but it can be the same thing. So if you need it, if you want it, just let her know and she will have it.
Thank you, Anna Maria. What I will do is, if it's okay with you, I'll share the PDF in the follow-up email that I'll send tomorrow. Along with
Okay, I'll send the new one because I have changed it since I sent it earlier on today.
Maybe also you could stop sharing your presentation now, and
Sure.
then Barbara and you can have a chat.
Thank you very much, Anna Maria. So much food for thought, so many practical considerations highlighting the importance of time for children, but also personal commitment and joy of being with this age group. The children need to feel the same way as we need curiosity. Children also need to feel that we enjoy their company, that we enjoy being with them. I think that's really, really vital. I wonder if there are any questions or any comments from our audience tonight.
Maybe not. I have answered all your questions.
No, there is. Lilandi would like to ask a question.
Lilandi. Oh, hello.
Yeah, I think, hi, Anna Maria. Thank you so
Hi.
much for what you shared tonight. I'm just starting to delve into this age group, but I'm really enjoying it. And it's a wonderful age group, you know, to work with, and they just are amazing. I just wanted to really comment on that scale that you shared, where the teachers, you know, has to balance their child's unconsciousness. And I think that's such a powerful visual image to have, because that explains why working with this age group is so demanding.
Yes.
On the adults. It really is. But
Yes.
it's also, you know, to kind of see it that way, I think just helps validate the fact that it is demanding, but it also is so important and so valuable. And so I think that's really a visual picture that'll stick with me especially. So thank you.
Oh, that's a wonderful comment. Thank you very much, because I only did that this morning when I woke up with this, oh, I need a scale. I need a scale on my presentation. I need to show this somehow. So thank you very much. I think absolutely right. Sometimes, just to reply to your comment, Lilandi, sometimes I was asked, what do you do with the babies all day? It can't be that difficult. And why are you so exhausted? You know, you just sit there all day or whatever. And that is like, do you really want to know what I do all day? It is emotionally draining. It's physically exhausting if you do it properly. And obviously you are doing it properly because you are giving yourself and you are serving the child's energies and powers. And that is the exhausting bit, because whatever you have in you that morning empties out into the children, doesn't it? And I think that's why I read it somehow. You can't pour from an empty cup. It is so true. In a baby room, it is so very true, because a 3-year-old can go and help themselves for anything they want. They can even tell you. But without tuning in with all your fibers, without being able to observe and being able to be with the child's spirit, which is exhausting, you can't actually look after them. So I'm so glad it helped someone, that pair of scales. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Anna Maria, I was also thinking that this reference to the unconscious child is I know that it's Montessori term because that's how she describes the absorbent mind at that stage, but it's not particularly helpful because this child is incredibly aware. This child is incredibly feeling. This child is attuned to the environment. This child is attuned to the other children. That there is such richness, but because it's not immediately visible, it is sometimes undermined or forgotten by us as practitioners or by carers. What we should remember, that the reason why it's exhausting, it's because it's this interaction of the feelings between the baby and between the carer, that you are responsive to. If you do a good job, you are responsive to the child. And that's what's so exhausting, because you have to be in your head an interpreter of what you believe is going on for the child. And that's what makes it so tricky.
Especially when there's more than one. Yes, absolutely. And I think it's that I really like, I just read it somewhere, that the child absorbs unconsciously, we know that, but knowing that they absorb everything with their body. And she said somewhere, I did have it somewhere, with his life, he absorbs it, his life. And I think that's so much more. It makes this child so active. And sometimes what I see is that they are perceived as passive babies, and they are not. And I think because there's this the poor things can't talk yet or can't express themselves the way we normally express ourselves, they looked as passive beings, but they absolutely everything but passive, I do believe. So, yeah. Do we have any more questions?
Erin, you have made yourself visible. Are you courageous enough to speak?
Yes, I am. Hi there. Hi, Anna Maria. Thank you so much for the presentation. I am actually a preschool teacher, but I have a toddler of my own.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And the thing that I took away most from your presentation was that you really do have to trust, although it is difficult, you have to have faith in the child and their abilities and what they can do. Because although I was brought up with Montessori and I know it very well, seeing your own little person develop those things on their own it's surreal and it's different. And yeah, I can't imagine people that do it more than one, because one is a lot. But yeah, it is. They can do so much more than people give them credit for, I think.
Yes,
and yeah.
Thank you for that, Erin. And I think the faith in the child and trusting the child is so shows our respect so much. That for example, I'll just very quickly say this because this was a hilarious little thing that happened when I had the childminding. I had the three little ones. I only had children under 2.5, and so there was one boy who had a yellow pair of wellies, and he was obsessed with these yellow pair of wellies. And another child, 2-year-old, just got up one day during the day and put the wellies next to the door, next to the lounge door. And I said, Oscar, why are you doing that? Why are you putting the wellies to the door? And he said, well, George likes them there. This was the little one, George. George likes them there, and he can put them on when he's leaning onto the wall. Now, I get goosebumps when I think about that, because it showed so much of, him noticing what his little friend could do and liked doing. So that kind of emotional connection between the two children, the observation of this older child, 2-year-old, not even 2, of this tiny one. And of course, I was thinking, oh my gosh, of course, I need to trust his thinking. I need to trust his behave, the way he behaved. He made this decision to prepare the wellies so that George can then get into when he's leaning onto the wall. And to me, that showed so much of me trusting as a teacher, and of them respecting each other and watching each other. It was just marvelous. That was a long story written about that, of course, in the afternoon. I have to write this down. So, absolutely. Good luck with your toddler. Just keep trusting him and everything's going to be okay.
It is such a perfect example why time, patience, understanding are so important from our perspective, because it will allow us to really learn a huge amount about the little ones with whom we are in a setting or at home as parents or grandparents, or in whichever role we are. I think this is a really beautiful little anecdote to finish on, because it sends us with such positive belief in the powers of the human being and how we can help this life of the human being to unfold. So thank you, Anna Maria.
Thank you.
It was really, really lovely. We enjoyed sharing in your experience and in your well-shared thoughts about the importance of this age group. So thank you very much for finding the time to do that.
It's okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Just to remind you that next week, next Wednesday, is it, Gwendolyn, or is it next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday is the Montessori Europe.
We have got Montessori Europe. If you are interested in issues of sustainability, you may want to tune in and share in our reflections. We also are organizing a morning for adolescents on the 25th of June. You can see I'm already in holiday mode. It's very sunny in England today. It feels very lovely, very promising of the coming days. So if you are working with adolescents and if you are interested in engaging them in dialogue with other adolescents, please join us. And Montessori Musings will be back for the last session of this academic year on Tuesday, the 5th of July, when we hope to reflect, celebrate, and thank all of you who have been working with us for the last 2 years. We look forward to seeing you again. Have a lovely evening, and thank you again, Anna Maria, and thank you, Gwendolyn.